You're going to face adversity in life through many different avenues, and you're going to make mistakes, or things are going to happen to you outside of your control.
Yep.
You have to learn how to take that, compartmentalize it, and look for a way to make an opportunity out of it.
Yeah. And again, I know we didn't get into what that was, but and having someone, I've never had anything anywhere near similar happen. You can't wallow in it for the rest of your life, right? No. You can't. That's anything, right? We don't have control over anything, to be clear. But when something really does come out of nowhere, and you can't change that. I'm sure you can be pissed. I'm sure you can do all kinds of things, but it doesn't serve you to continue and live and wallow in that. And you're a great example of what is possible.
Yeah.
Welcome to The Roll Call, the podcast where we dive into the roles that define us. I'm your host, John Glahn. On each episode, we explore the journeys of people discovering their true roles in life, business, and beyond. Get ready for inspiring conversations about finding purpose and authenticity. Let's roll the roll call.
Hello, welcome to The Roll Call. I'm your host, John Glahn. I have with me Leighton Wells, El Jefe of Synergy Design, who is a long time friend, long time get in trouble friend, long time experienced friend, through really elementary, middle school, high school, college, fraternity, all the above. Many awesome experience. Best man, holy smokes. Lots of dirty, bad things in our life. No, I'm just kidding. Awesome. All are accounted for. Let's start the roll call. See, that's what I was supposed to do, that hook before. So now we're actually having this podcast.
All right.
So anyway, Leighton, awesome to have you here. Awesome to be hanging out with you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to share your story. I want to start, for everyone's sake, before we get into where you are today, is, really from a very early age, you were the guy that was always working, doing something different. We were out working, doing whatever landscape job, the local work and doing labor, and you were always felt like you were always doing the business side of things. You jumped into sales very early. I'm talking to you, and I want to tell them what you were doing. So through college, you were the guy that got up early and you were driving around the state selling medical, selling prosthetics, selling things, doing real business things before any of us really knew what the hell that was. Yeah. So I'm jumping the gun, but I just wanted to say that because it's all going to come back together.
Sure.
So I guess we'll start back in, also in the same token, right? Me leaving school was like, hey, let me go get the biggest logo I can get as far as working for a company, because that's what I thought I needed to do.
Right.
Or, get on the resume.
Right.
And you're like, no, I got a path and plan. You've been working on this plan for years already. So you stepped right in and you were already doing, making the money, doing the things. So don't know where I'm going with any of that other than to say you are now, where did you start this entrepreneurial journey?
So I would say it really kind of started in 8th grade. My dad, who is my greatest role model and mentor, kind of shaped my future in pretty simple fashion. He said, son, go get a job. And so I did that. Yeah. And from that point on, I kind of realized that, if you're successful and hardworking, it opens a lot of doors to do things that you want to do. So kind of followed that through its progression, going into, as you said, into college, where I was able to focus my curriculum where I had days off that I didn't have to go to class. And when I did that, my dad at the time was launching his own private line of orthopedic splints and needed a sales rep in Indiana. Thought it would be a great idea to have some 17, 18-year-old running around selling his splints. Yeah. I didn't know if it was a joke or his form of amusement, or if he actually thought that it would help me out. And I don't think that any one thing could have helped me more in the sense of growing up, maturing, as well as building a foundation for kind of my entrepreneurial spirit. Being in that sales role, cold calling on people when you're not even of legal drinking age. Yeah.
We did drink though. Just so everybody know. We did. Yeah.
Edit that out. Now, and honestly, that really kind of guided me towards what do I want to do when I grow up. And So basically that kind of led into connections into the orthopedic space further down with implants, and kind of guided me towards doing sales in the implant space, which was something that at the time was pretty highly sought after. So I was very fortunate through some connections to get a job offer in Chicago to be a junior rep. And at the time, it was kind of an experiment for him. You know, my distributor, he said, you know, you're 21 years old. Like, we don't hire people like you. Nowadays, it's much different, but that was many decades ago. And so that's kind of what got me on my journey, because I knew, as I had seen from other folks that had already been doing it for a while, that you were kind of allowed to drive your own destiny, right? And create your own wealth, create your own, you know, workplace environment, everything. And a lot of responsibility. None of that would have happened without the upbringing I had. So, you know, for me, that was kind of a pivotal moment, being very young and being forced into a situation where I had to, you know, kind of grow up quick. And I think he did that on purpose. Not looking back on it now, you know, I didn't really understand, but I definitely understand now that there was definitely purpose behind it.
You know, boy, maybe I should have him on here. You know, Jeff Wells, Cindy Wells, his parents, you know, there was a time when they were seeing my parents, right? We spent a lot of time at your house with your parents, seeing his tutelage and his, meant a lot of time. Your family's meant a ton to me. And the fact you got to be, you know, again, seeing that, the entrepreneurial side, I think your dad has had a handful of different of those ventures, which is great. But in college, you're right. Actually, just talking about how much more mature you had to be. Like when we had a day off at college, it was so we could mess around. I could insert a different word there, but that was us. And you were like, you know, you're the adult that's putting on a suit and you're going to go drive and cold call. And again, everyone else was just like, nah, we're going to lay around and whatever. So
no,
awesome.
it was good, but I mean, it was a way to make money too. So I can look back on it now like it was some grand scheme, but also at the time I was a young kid, and you know, and having the access to the source of income and stuff like that, and the freedom was kind of really cool. And as I got older, I realized how really important it was to driving and forming. Like I said, I think he knew that all along. And you come to realize it later on that was kind of what drove and shaped my my journey. And I think it just comes from him too. You know, he left as a loan officer at State Bank, Syracuse, with a 2-year-old and one on the way to start his own business. So, you know, I think it kind of ran in the blood, you know, and he said that was kind of a fun ride. I think he ought to try it. So, you know, that's kind of where all that stemmed from.
And then taking it into, you know, that world of implant, right? Because that was the journey right after college, going in and doing something that older men and women normally do, and you're the young buck out there just going out and doing it, and you know, and that wasn't an easy task, right? I remember we'd all try to be, hey, let's go have fun. Like, you know, I'm on call, right? You got to be in the operating room, and you're telling a doctor what to do. That's kind of weird.
It's a different world to the layperson, and you learned a lot about what goes on behind the scenes, and there's a ton of responsibility to it. And I think that's part of the reason, especially early on, you know, young folks just weren't typically mature enough. So I think my upbringing, my experience early on really lent itself to having an opportunity that maybe I wouldn't have had otherwise. So.
And then take that into what's the first step? Because then that was working for, you're right, for a distributor. When did it shift for you? When did it change to doing your own thing?
So I'd always wanted to kind of, you know, do that. And, you know, things were going pretty good. And I was kind of building my base, you know, because obviously if you get involved in that, a lot of times it's going to require some kind of investment. So I was building that base, and, you know, and then I had some changes in my personal life. And that kind of, you know, it changed my course prematurely. but it didn't change the direction. And in fact, as time went on, it really galvanized kind of who I am as an individual, and helped me, to be truly honest with you, that everybody is going to experience adversity in their life in some form or another.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at that as a road to defeat. And, it was not the way I was raised. And, and despite the fact it was very difficult, it definitely galvanized me. And, there's only two choices you can make. You can give up or you can keep fighting, you know? And so I chose that secondary path. And, in the meantime, I had come back and worked with my dad for a little while, and was a great experience. I got to do a lot of traveling around the world. Went to Vietnam, Taiwan, China, Japan, because at that time he had been bought out and he was in charge of his division still, but we had moved manufacturing to South Vietnam.
You built a new facility there.
Built a new facility, built two, and I was in charge of basically helping manage that. Because he was on the executive team. So I did that for about a year and a half, and it was a fantastic experience. But, I never, the goal then was to kind of continue on in that process, but I'm not a huge, big corporate guy. It's my entrepreneurial spirit that just
Hence everyone that I have on this, by the way.
that kept driving me towards wanting to do my own thing. And he knew that. And he was kind of presenting an option, but also, hey, if this is not what you want to do, and so another opportunity, obviously I'd had well over a decade in the Chicagoland area, tons and tons of deep connections, relationships, network. So an opportunity presented itself to come back to Spine with a different company. I did that and basically set out like a year and a half roadmap to carve out my own distributorship, which I did. And so, at that point in time, I had basically what I was looking for, and spent the next, almost spent another decade doing that through multiple transitions of the company that I represented. And my main focus, we had other brands, but obviously you typically have one flagship brand,
right.
And there's a lot of transition with that brand. But they were a loyal partner, and it really helped me build that business and build a team. We had a dozen reps at our height. I eventually joined forces with another distributor in Wisconsin. We had 3 states, so it was quite a deal, and really a lot of fun. So that was kind of a goal achieved, and then an opportunity came for him to bow out. And, contractually speaking, that was just kind of how it had to happen. And that's when, this next chapter with the synergy happened. Again, someone tapped my dad for his expertise, and he called me up after I mentioned to him that we were going to sell the distributorship, and asked if I wanted to come back to my roots, back to sewing. And I said, well, I don't really know if I want to do that. And he said, well, I think they'll let you, buy into this business and grow it. He said, they need the help, and I can't do this anymore. I'm too old. I'll help them get started. I'll help them source this and that. But he's like, I'm not doing the day-to-day anymore. Yeah. So that's kind of how we got to this point.
Wow. So like each and every step of the way, right? It has always amazed me. One, again, a father and the confidence in their son, that's one thing. But it happens so many times in family businesses where someone brings the son in or the daughter in, and they're like, oh, geez, this guy's an idiot. But, to come in and go building facilities in a foreign country and manage that and just entrust it to a guy that maybe has some experience, but holy shit, they just know you're going to figure it out. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. As you know, but for everybody else that doesn't know, it was harder for me than if I wasn't related to him. Yeah. By design. Yeah. By design. He was not going to, be criticized for hiring in his, son who just sloughs around and does nothing. Yeah. So, and that also helped. So yeah, it's, it's interesting to look back on that it kind of keeps coming back around, but it only kept coming back around because, I went out and proved myself out in the wider world where he wasn't involved anymore, and knew that the company would be in good hands if everything aligned itself.
No, absolutely. And it's not like, hey, it was just he was already doing the same thing. Like, again, to have the confidence, and then another thing of each person along the way, the company that he's with, to have the confidence that,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I want to bring this dude in that doesn't know what he's doing, or doesn't know about what we're doing.
Right.
But he's going to make an impact.
Yeah.
Right. It's happened time and time again, which is amazing, and says so many things about you, but also, again, him. And he's not a dummy, and it's proven out.
Yeah.
So, right. So he's got a lot of credibility there. I'd love to go back to the distributorship when you were the owner, right? And we're going to go through from that part, because that was the first part where you're running the show.
Right.
And then I'd love to just go through that and then like slow down and talk about the growing of that team, and then like, holy shit, we're merging with someone, and complexities there, and your roles you played through all that. So
it's always a matter of timing, circumstance. I think the work ethic was what really helped me grow. Like when you look back before I got the chance to become my own distributor, a lot of the relationships that I leveraged to achieve that were earned when I was a rep. And because these are long-standing relationships, you're in the OR with these spine surgeons, extremely intelligent folks, but also too, I mean, they're human beings, and they're operating on other human beings who are people's mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers.
They could paralyze them.
Yeah, and could paralyze them or kill them.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, they're going to leave a foreign object, in this person's body. And they want to trust that the person that's providing that knows what they're doing. And so it takes a while, but once you have developed that, you have a partner for life. You really do. And so one of the things that I looked for when I first got my opportunity to build that team was honesty and work ethic. Those were the two things that to me were the most important aspects of somebody's character that would make for a good implant rep. So sometimes you had your, I'll call them quote unquote, typical salesperson that really could sell product, but more times than not, that person would end up fizzling out over time or would bounce around to multiple places. Could never really put down roots and build something because they were always after the next best thing. And they didn't want to entrench themselves into trying to build something. And they just were chasing the dollar, which if you're successful in that particular industry, especially a decade ago, the money would come. That was not the problem.
Right.
Yeah. It was for me, the joy, the money was secondary to building the team and building something and building a legacy and a business that you could leave behind.
Yeah. And I was going to, it's funny you say, I was going to ask you, so how do you interview for that? How do you interview for honesty and work ethic?
So a lot of times it's funny because it's also a very small pool of people to choose from, because it still was not a very well-known industry as far as sales goes. And it was harder to get into. So a lot of times you received folks from, word of mouth and networks and things like that. And, usually you kind of have to be quick. And I think one of the things that makes a good salesperson is you can read people and get a pretty good gut feeling on somebody fairly quickly. So you can sniff out the bullshit artist most times. Not all the time, but most times. And so really I just sit down and talk to them for a little while, before I hired them. If I thought like the conversation was genuine, and I could tell that they cared about what they were doing, then I'd give them a chance, and usually I had a kind of a work through path. You start off working with somebody else and, and over time, Feedback from your customers was extremely important, because you'd put them into the safe spaces first with your people, and train them and see how they ended up. But for me, really, just a conversation was what I would use as a barometer on the front end.
Yeah, because I think that the more I've learned through, I've owned a sales organization for 13 years, and I've only been in sales, and I always thought that it was maybe guys like me that were really good at sales, because you could talk the gift of gab and you can make people laugh and what I have found, and even including in myself, those are not the most successful salespeople. They're the ones that do hoodwink people and they're thinking that that's what sales is. The best ones are disciplined, ask questions, and work hard, because it's just discipline, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, like most people back in the day, they wouldn't think you're not the prototypical sales guy, Leighton. No. You're not, right? You're
No.
measured, you're calculated, you're responsible, and you come out that way. And what do you know? People do then buy from you. They trust you, and again, you're following up and doing those things. Versus the one that most people think are the sales guys, are the ones that are loud and boisterous, and they do bounce around and they don't sell shit,
mm-hmm.
right? Mm-hmm. They always have an excuse. Like, again, it's funny how what most people think a salesperson really is, and it really is the most successful ones are the introverts.
Yeah,
that aren't the ones that love being out with people.
They're the ones that play the long game.
Yeah,
and you develop a rapport with your customer, and once you've got that and they trust you, you're never going to lose them. You're never going to lose them. And then especially in a position like this where, potentially lives are on the line, where, catastrophic events can happen with screw ups. And so beyond the honesty, hard work and being judicious and being disciplined are things that these folks are looking for, because they need to see it. And you really are part of the team. I mean, a lot of times you get guff and you'll see it on LinkedIn or whatever, and people, hating on reps and things like that. And most of that's all fluff. At the end of the day, the folks that are really successful and or from the folks like you said, the fly-by-nighters, most of the really successful ones have surgeons that, I mean, hell, I had a few that came to the funeral, I mean, these are people that you have connections with for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
So, and that only comes from being genuine, from being authentic, and yeah. So those are characteristics that I would always look for. I would forego folks who I would kind of, the BS meter would kind of start ticking. I kind of said, there's other spots for you, not for me.
Yeah. Right. Awesome. So, what was your role as you grew, and then as you merged with the other company? Like how did that go? So it's interesting. Part of that too is just circumstance. The flagship company that we represented had quite a few changes from the time that I started with them, with another distributorship, the one that I kind of set up the path with. That company itself went through 6 mergers and acquisitions in 4 years. But only the industry changed a ton with regulations and stuff, right?
And just the saturation of the market. That's part of the reason I left. Yeah. It went from when I started in 2003, gosh, I want to say there were less than a dozen companies that were selling spinal hardware. I think there was probably on the order of 250 by the time I left. Yeah. So it got so saturated, and all that does is it dilutes the talent pool. And, because there's just so many options, and then, it becomes more commoditized. People stop caring, and it was not the same animal, but that's over the course of 2 decades. And don't get me wrong, it's still a great industry to be in. And I do miss it. But from the standpoint, if we're just going to segregate the conversation around entrepreneurial opportunities, this is kind of going the same trajectory that pharmaceuticals did 2 decades prior. Yeah. It just kind of became more of an entry level sales experience, more of a segregated, regimented, big corporate behemoth. Sure. There's still people that make it, but the role of, so my distributorship was set up like a business. I mean, I had a 401k, we had insurance, we had expense accounts, and that was all managed by me, because I felt like that's what's really going to bring value to these people.
Mhm.
You know, most reps run into the situation of, well, I want maximum points, you know, commission points, which
So 1099 or
which I'm not saying I didn't do, but how do you bring in new people? How do you bring in young talent? Because as years went by, the ages just kept dropping and the experience level just kept dropping.
Yeah.
And so folks coming in their early 20s was now not uncommon.
Right.
And well, how do those folks earn on 100% commissions? Well, they don't, right? And they flame out before maybe they even get a chance to spread their wings.
Yeah.
So my goal was, you know, because when I came back, I was always 1099 because I didn't care. I'd already made my ground. So I just wanted to make the money.
Yeah.
With the intent that when I got to my own position, I would change the structure of how I ran my distributorship. And it turned out to be pretty good. Again, the market determined our fate for us, you know, as far as big distributors went, multi-state, you know, full benefits, all that stuff. It became very difficult because as the market saturated, our suppliers, you know, couldn't offer us the rates that we needed to be competitive anymore. Because you had, you know, this big company, big flagship company that we have is competing against all these small companies that are running real lean. They can offer they're taking huge margins. And so they're passing that on to these folks that are running just a single, they call it a distributorship, but like the lone wolves, you know, are out there.
Had a couple relationships. Yeah.
And that was becoming more and more popular. And so it became even more difficult. And so I think when I saw the writing on the wall that I couldn't do it the way I wanted to do it, I think I was humble enough to say, I've made my peace with this industry.
Yeah.
I think it's time for me to cut, you know, cut a
Peace
new
out.
path and try something different. And again, because that's what excites me ultimately.
Yeah.
You know, I love selling spine implants. I love the people I work with, but I make cushions now.
Yeah, I know. What a
That's
twist.
not, yeah. I don't think people get up in the morning and say, boy, I really want to make some cushions. You know,
I
that's
beg
not,
to differ.
That's not what drives me. That's, you know, it's the rush of having your own business and having all that, you know, risk and responsibility on your shoulders. That's what gets you out of bed in the morning.
Love it.
I mean, we're going to drive 2 hours home and I'll be in the office at 4:30. So, you know, that's just the way it goes.
So let's talk about now. Talk about these cushions. They're glorious, glamorous, wonderful frickin' cushions.
They're not bad.
No, but there's some beauty in what you guys do now, which is a niche business.
Yeah. So kind of where we found success, and you know, my partner that is in it with me, you know, day in, day out, is a veteran of the industry, and that's critical, right?
Yeah.
I'm not from the RV industry.
Right.
You know, I've
Wait,
I've been around sewing a long time, but I'm not getting on a sewing machine. That would be awful.
Yeah.
I'd break something or break myself.
Yeah.
So, you know, but you need that insight into the industry. But I think part of what our recipe for success is I'm bringing a lot of insight outside of the industry, because like any industry, you get stuck in a rut and everybody does, and it becomes circular.
Can't see.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's following a leader.
Yeah.
And all that does is it deteriorates quality and service and all these things because, this is the industry. This is what we do. And so bringing somebody else in that wants to make a difference, you know, is basically the flag that we've been charging ahead with is we want to make a difference. We want to provide you a level of quality and service that you're not used to seeing from a product segment within your RV that is often overlooked. But yet, I'll use an analogy. When you go shopping for a car, 9 times out of 10, the interior and exterior of the look of the car are what most people are buying. Some people are looking at reliability. They're looking at, you know, all that other stuff.
Still has to look like.
But you still have to want to get it. There is an emotional aspect to it. You walk into an RV and you see a dinette set and the cushions are 2 inches short and you can see wood hanging off of them, or they're too big and they're all wrinkly. I mean, what kind of look is that, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what they were getting and what they were used to, because the margins on the products are not like frames and axles and, some of these big ticket items.
Because why? They're normally bought out of
Exactly. China.
Yeah.
Or wherever.
Yeah. Low cost country, like cheaper
and
as can
they're
be.
coming in by the truckload. Now, like I said, before, when you're doing like 2 sizes of couches or whatever, it's easy. Those are your options. And then you build everything around that, where this is always the last thing to go. So it's kind of how it's going to fit. Well, you still need cushions for them. And in order to do that, you need to be able to be quick to change. And because basically with imports, you're looking at, 4 to 6 weeks at a minimum to get anything even changed, let alone to your door. Now you're looking at 12 to 14 weeks to get it to your door. So think about how much time has elapsed. And most of these folks are going year to year sometimes. Sometimes they do too, but a lot of them will go year to year and make some kind of change, whether it's to fabric or they'll change a dinette size because the dealer says, we don't like this, make it 4 inches shorter or whatever.
Right.
Well, if you've got these kind of lead times, you've got stuff on the water that isn't going to go into a unit for 6 months.
Right.
So in order to make that change, you've already missed the boat. And so there was a huge opportunity there for us to do something domestically and still, the margins are not huge, but they're there if you're smart about how you source. So there are some restrictions that we have, but we do have some freedoms in major ticket items because there's not a lot to the bill of materials to make a cushion.
Yeah.
So some of the biggest ticket items, we have the freedom to source where we want to. And, and that's been a big key to our success, to find the profitability in a small company to be able to survive and reinvest. And so that's been a huge key to our success.
So I know I want to hit on some things. We were just chatting and I just happened to know a few things off air, but to be clear, because I wasn't clear on how the RV stuff works, right? Right. The couch, that's no matter what, it's going to be the same thing. And an RV is a little house, right? And so just like when you build a house, right, you want your oven to be here. You want your not in most RVs do you get to really move things around, but there are certain markets that lend themselves to certain XYZ things. And so to be clear on what, it's the other little thing that gets customized are the seating areas that are not the bench, not the, or not the
main
couch,
piece,
the main piece. Yeah. So what I think is interesting to kind of bring home is you're not competing with the couch.
No.
You're going after the little shit over here that everybody forgets about until it's painful and you're the one that makes the pain go away.
Yeah.
And you were competing, as you were saying earlier, right? The market share is like insane.
Yeah, it's over 80%, of the market share leader. It's unbelievable. I mean, I can't imagine a market share like that.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of opportunity, for market share capture. And so we just focused on staying, very narrow and tight with our product offerings. Literally two product lines we offered we're going into our 5th year. I've been on board for 2.5, a little over 2 now. And we still just now started offering a couple other product segments in the furniture industry, but we'd focused on just 2, bunk mats and dinette cushions, and that is it. And our goal was to focus on quality, maintain a competitive price, because when it really comes down to it, if they really wanted to go, they could get us on price just because of the sheer volumes that they deal with and bundling and all that kind of stuff that big companies do. But at the end of the day, where do they lose? They lose on the quality and the service. They cannot react like we can react. Right. And so like I said, that the biggest hurdle we had when we first started was getting quality suppliers that would get us competitive prices. Once we locked those in, and again, that was another advantage coming from outside of the industry. We brought some different sourcing options from the medical side of things that like everybody falls in line and does the same thing. Well, we were working with the same type of material in a different market, different suppliers focused on that. Yeah. And so we were able to capitalize on that and bring in supplier networks that allowed us to find margin where we didn't think there would be margin. And it would allow us to be more competitive on our pricing because our service was already there. Our quality was already there. That was not a concern. But at the end of the day, like I said, these are kind of afterthought products, right? They're not the big ticket items that the purchasing agents, are focused on. I got to hit my number, I got to hit this BOM goal that they're trying to have for the unit, and you got to have an axle, you got to have a frame, you got to have,
the big stuff.
This big ticket stuff. There's not a lot of left over for some of the smaller things. Right. And so we had to find a way to try and get that. And like I said, being outside of the marketplace, coming in, having a different network of suppliers really allowed us to be competitive.
Well, I think there's so many nuggets in that for any business owner to learn and understand, right? I think keep it simple, stupid, number one. But also like the niching down. I think, I just used this one earlier today, right? It's hard to make things easy, but it's easy to make things hard in the same token, right? It could be easy for someone to come in like, hey, we only do 2 things. Let's go find 8 more things we can go do. And you've totally diluted what the hell you're trying to accomplish because you're losing sight of what you're doing. And you don't have to get new tooling. You don't have to get, right? It's the investment is honing in our message, honing in on what we do. We don't have to go talk to, we're not then trying to go sell to boat people. We're not trying to no, we know what our market is. Your marketing, your sales efforts are very slimline and streamlined, and you can just go nail it. Yeah. Right. That is how you can penetrate markets the simplest, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but you have to identify and do your homework, and that's the folks that were at the very beginning identified a market that was dominated by one player, and they saw the weaknesses and they knew that if they focused, they could exploit it. They just needed somebody to come in to help drive it to that next level. Yeah. And so, that's where a lot of the experience, my sales experience over the years, and, because I'm not afraid to go talk to people I don't know. Yeah. I've been doing it for over 20 years, so just give me a business card. I'll go find some business. Yeah. So, and it's been very successful because I think it's a breath of fresh air for, these folks to see people coming from outside and maybe paying attention and caring about items that typically didn't get that kind of attention.
Well, and again, that's an industry, again, for us. In Northern Indiana is very well known and penetrated, very well known to be high volume, low cost. And again, that is the industry in the area. Mm-hmm. So you get retreads of people that, they're purchasing at this one, and then the next time they're just purchasing over to a different one, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like, to your point, not many new faces or ideas come in, and it goes in waves, right? It's an industry that goes high, 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 and then it goes low, low, low. And so, having that outside thought, I think is a really good point too. Many people are so scared to hire outside the industry because they think they got to have the experience to go do something. But what is possible when you don't know what you don't know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you can really unfetter yourself from a lot of preconceived notions about what you need to do, how you need to do it, and where you need to get it from. Yeah. I kind of came in here and kind of changed some of the attitudes about that. And, it's been, like I said, it's been very successful. And we have a great team, very hardworking team. And I think that's a thing that is also truly very important when you're trying to grow a business, like we talked about with the sales reps and the truth and honesty, and is really to get folks, because this is a different animal. I mean, we're talking about, blue collar, hardworking individuals. It's factory work. It's hard work, and it's specialized work. Sewing, for people that don't know, not anybody can just do it and do it fast. And
it's not a machine. I mean, it's a machine doing it, but there's a human that's doing the work.
There is an art to it. To make it look good, but also be efficient, it takes skill, a lot of skill. And so the biggest thing for me with a small company, was to try and groom a culture where there was buy-in, right? So, we've provided incentive plans that are kind of a little different than what they're used to, in twofold, to help us as a small company not get locked into, a cost structure that couldn't be flexible. But yet and this is, again, it comes from my experience being a commissioned rep, right? And all these years, 100% commission. Nothing drives incentive, nothing drives production more than incentive. And so if I could find a way to get people to buy in to what we were trying to do and say, if times are good, you're going to be rewarded for that. Yeah. And then they see it in action, they're much less likely to go backwards. Yeah, they're going to keep charging forwards because they know that there's a reward for all the hard work. And again, I don't know everything about this industry, and I know the ups and downs historically from living there. What I'm very excited about is, the growth that we've experienced over the last 2 years. We are still at one of the low points in this industry. So we're ready. I mean, we're ready. We went from 30,000 square feet 2.5 years ago, to 110,000 square feet today.
Oof, I'm not good at math, but that's a lot.
Yeah, so we've been growing like
4x,
crazy,
right? That's nuts.
Yeah, and so we went from that many square feet. We also went from maybe a dozen employees to, I think we just had Thanksgiving this afternoon, and we're like at 50, I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's been a great ride. It's been a lot of hard work and a lot of hours, but it's definitely going to pay itself off in the back end. I think that, a lot of the investors were worried because we got in at a very volatile time.
Right.
But I think it ended up really helping us because it wasn't going crazy. So we were able to get our feet wet. We could, walk before we ran. Yeah. And we haven't experienced the pain that all of our competition has because we've been in market share capture mode.
Well, yeah.
So we've been adding revenue, even though the market is kind of still doing,
And you're solving the problem.
Yeah.
Right. You're solving the problem a little bit at a time for some of these other companies, right? When they're needing help, you're there, right? And when times are tough, that's when it's like, okay, I'm willing. Most of the time they're like, we already have a supplier, don't worry about it, we're good. But it's like, whoa, we're all trying to figure this thing out. And that's when you come in and help. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So from what else which I think is really interesting is whereas you're like, what's the word I'm looking for? You are upsetting an industry in a way. One, about how you guys are going about it, but also I'm loving how you said, we're compensating differently. I got to imagine most manufacturing is we're going to pay you by the hour. You're going to punch a clock. You either work or you don't. The output you get is what the output you get. And that's how most manufacturing jobs are built.
Yeah.
And most compensation is given to an executive or a sales employee or something like that.
Yeah.
So holy shit, you're incentivizing the lowest level worker in an industry that has historically been considered low margin.
Yep.
And you guys are growing 4x and you're doing all this stuff? Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so here's the thing. To be an entrepreneur, and I think this is the biggest mistake most people make, is they go out, they think they're going to own their own business, and then money starts coming in, and where does it go? Right? Yeah. You know exactly where it goes. And that is the road to ultimate defeat, because who got you there? Yeah, it's the people down on the sewing machines, on the cutting machines. It's everyone. It's everyone else that gets you there. You might have the greatest idea in the world, and it might be very well thought out. But when it comes to execution, it's in a market like this, maybe in a sales as an independent salesperson, you've got an idea and you can make it happen, but you're never going to grow it past that. No. Yeah. You have to find ways to be humble and be prudent, but also be driving towards an ultimate vision. Why did I invest in this company? Well, ultimately, I want to get a return on that investment. The return is not on the cash dividends that you put in, your pocket every year, that you redistribute in investing in more growth, investing in the people that attained that growth for you. So yes, they are. These are still hourly employees. I'm not trying to say that we've reinvented the wheel, but we have different plans that I think a lot of our competition doesn't do exactly the same way that we do.
Yeah.
And we felt a little bit of pushback on the front side because everybody's nervous about the unexpected, and so I couldn't give them an answer as to what it was going to be.
Right.
And I think when we did well, and they saw this, and then the next month they did better, and they're like, oh, and so it's contagious. And
no, absolutely,
people build on that.
It's funny because again, most places that I actually employees saying, I want to raise. I'm like, well, what role do you have in the company, right? It's always about what role do you have, and what are you doing? What's your experience? And then they say, well, I should be making so much more. I'm like, okay, well then, we're a sales organization. So okay, well, hop into sales. You can write your own ticket. Mm-hmm. And when you get into the sales, and so many times I've talked to so many people when they go into sales, like, all right, you got to have a little skin in the game. So now your salary goes down and you got to earn it back. Well, what? So maybe you're not a salesperson, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you got to have that long game, that risk reward part. Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned the long game a couple different times, right? Because you're reinvesting in the business because the long game. The best sales guys are, what's the long game, right? And so getting your people to see the long game, and sometimes you gotta trust me. I promise, it's going to happen. So that's awesome. Well, what I like to do is, one, I love it because I love the entrepreneurial game because everyone, again, some people have careers and maybe people change. Maybe they might change companies or whatever. They jump around. That's one thing. But like to change industries, like you change your underwear. I'm just kidding. And to succeed in different industries, I think that is the true metal. And again, and I know your age, and we got a long way to go. Yeah. And it's exciting to see how, I know this is going to turn out well and what's going to be next and all that good stuff. But what I like to end with is have you tell me a mistake, failure, misstep, something that was significant to you that others can learn from.
I would say I'll go a little different route. I'll say that, and you can still draw somewhat of an analogy because I'm going to go kind of a high level. It was a personal event that kind of totally changed the course of my life. In a way, like I said before, and I wasn't trying to be flippant about it or anything, that it helped me because it didn't from a personal level. But like I said, I think being young and ambitious and just kind of thinking everything was great and everything, and then all of a sudden your world gets turned around, right? Yeah. And this happens to people outside of personal. I mean, this could be a professional thing, but I think you can draw from that same well, and that is, what do you do with adversity? Mm-hmm. And I think that is the number one thing that people will either ultimately succeed or fail is how do you deal with adversity? And so I would say that, and it took a while, but I looked back at the situation and said, I can let this particular incident, drive the course of my life, or I can take this situation and learn from it. And, I think from multiple angles, from a spiritual angle, from, a familial angle, from a lot of different places. Yeah. It really kind of galvanized me to say, I need to be an example, for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. I need to be an example for them. I need to show them that no matter what, I'm the person that, they knew they knew I was, right? I wasn't going to let this situation, take me down. Yeah. So, I would say just, and I know that's not really what you asked me, but I felt that it was important, if I'm going to have the opportunity to come on here and speak with you about, how do you, because, and I'm drawing it back, it's kind of a long route back to the entrepreneurial aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to face adversity in life through many different avenues, and you're going to make mistakes, or things are going to happen to you outside of your control.
Yep.
You have to learn how to take that, compartmentalize it, and look for a way to make an opportunity out of it. And so I think that, it was a situation where at first I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But I looked back and said, they would want me to continue to do what I was born to do, and that's create things, create value.
Yeah.
And so that's where, I finally got myself into a situation where I could, continue to thrive and grow and, and even from a very negative situation. Right. So I think that would be my takeaway from it, or what I pass on in the conversation to anybody that's going to, little or small, adversity is going to affect you one way or another. And you have to find a way to be, you have to find a way to drive through it, however that may be.
Yeah. And again, I know we didn't get into what that was, but you and having someone, I've never had anything anywhere near similar happen, but you can't wallow in it for the rest of your life, right? No. You can't, you have to, that's anything, right? So many things happen. We don't have control over anything, to be clear. But when something really does come out of nowhere, and listen, you can't change that. I'm sure you can be pissed. I'm sure you can do all kinds of things, but it doesn't serve you to continue and live and wallow in that. And you're a great example of what is possible. Yeah. So, thanks for sharing that. I hope everyone got something from this, because there's so many great learnings. And I love that you're moving headstrong into whatever space is in front of you. And I think that, so many people are better for knowing you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
thank you for being on, and love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
All right, man. That's it.
Thanks for tuning in to The Roll Call with John Glahn. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe for more insightful conversations. Remember, discovering your true role in life is a journey worth exploring each and every day. Until next time, keep defining your path and living your authentic self. This is John Glahn signing off.